certainly he's the person of interest. I think anyone who was involved with this entire scandal, is definitely someone who should be coming forward and telling us what they know. And we want to hear from every person who is identified in these files. One thing we're trying to do right now is get all the files. We don't have that. We don't have all the evidence and information we need. But certainly at this point, Mr. Mandelson is getting to a place where he's seems to have a lot of information that's important to the public.
So let's get another take on the Epstein scandal, which has now, well, deeply involved Peter Mandelson, actually the prime subject of the story, which is developing as I speak. A story of, well, very serious misconduct, it's how it's being described, leaking deep and high government information, emails to the Prime Minister himself, a tip to Jeffrey Epstein about a decision in the European Union to spend, well, at that point, Mandelson suggested maybe 500 billion euros, half a trillion euros, in a bailout of the ailing Greek economy. Just imagine what that would be worth to a foreign exchange trader, given advanced knowledge of that. We're going to be talking about that and much else as the programme goes on and the story develops. Now then, let's look at it from the American side, and welcome to the programme Suhas Subramanyam, who is a member of Congress and a member of the Oversight Committee on Capitol Hill. Welcome to you, Congressman.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Can I ask you, first of all, do you expect to be calling Lord Mandelson to give evidence to you?
We don't have plans right now, but certainly he's the person of interest. I think anyone who was involved with this entire scandal, is definitely someone who should be coming forward and telling us what they know. And we want to hear from every person who is identified in these files. One thing we're trying to do right now is get all the files. We don't have that. We don't have all the evidence and information we need. But certainly at this point, Mr. Mandelson is getting to a place where he's seems to have a lot of information that's important to the public.
So a person of interest, Congressman, this is someone who you will add on your list. Your committee, when it assembles, will presumably have a discussion on whether to issue a formal invitation or summons to Lord Mandelson to give evidence. And then I guess it'll be up to him, because you can't, unlike an American citizen, you can't compel him to appear.
That's right. Yeah. An American citizen, we can subpoena them in a way where they must appear. And if they don't appear, we can hold them in contempt. That would be a vote in the committee. The majority of the people on the committee right now are Republicans. So they've only, tried to use contempt when it came to Democrats. Like, for instance, the Clintons, they're trying to hold them in criminal contempt this week. And but in this case, if it's someone who's foreign national to us, then, there's no ability to hold them in contempt. We would be asking them and really trying to put public pressure on them to come forward, like we have with Andrew Mountbatten Windsor.
And just for further clarity, he is, of course, as you say, a British citizen. If and when Lord Mandelson sets foot on US soil after you issue an invitation, is it still a matter of entirely at his discretion whether he appears? You can't exercise any kind of compulsion on your own territory.
From the point of view of Congress, yes, we don't have, even if he sets foot in the United States, we don't have any jurisdiction over him then. If he was charged with a crime in the United States by law enforcement here, that's a different story.
Yes.
In that case, we're talking about, he could be arrested or, he could be extradited, or a request for extradition could be made to have him come over. But he has not been charged with a crime. He's not been proven any wrongdoing against him. And so to make that clear. And so, again, though, when we see all these pictures and documents come out, and you see the same names come up over and over again, though my question is, why didn't law enforcement do anything about this in the past? They clearly had access to this information. And what will it take for law enforcement to do something now? And so, in this case, it would be law enforcement in the UK needing to make that decision about whether they think it's worth going after people for criminal reasons.
We'll stick with Peter Mandelson just for a moment longer. Let us suppose, for the purpose of this conversation, that he is and chooses to appear before your committee. What sort of material, information would you want to get from Lord Mandelson? Clearly what he knew about what was going on around Jeffrey Epstein.
Certainly, I'd ask him questions about Epstein's crimes and what knowledge he had of them, what relationship he had with Epstein, and also, whether Epstein tried to in any way influence him from a policy perspective, and tried to also blackmail him, by in the same way, many others have pointed out he blackmailed other powerful people. And so, certainly I'd want to know exactly what the relationship was like and how Epstein used the relationship, because he often used people the same way he used his victims.
Right. And what about the issue of Peter Mandelson seemingly passing on inside information to Jeffrey Epstein? I mean, market-sensitive information from deep within government, capable of moving markets. Would that be relevant to your inquiry?
Oh, absolutely. And that's infuriating, honestly. And that's absolutely terrible. And it's one of the reasons why people don't trust politicians, right? Is because they hear stories like that. And so certainly we would want, part of this entire investigation is we want people to trust government again. We want to trust their institutions and trust that we will go after people regardless of how powerful they are. In this case, we'd want to know, I think that's in some ways a crime in and of itself. And so we'd want to know whether that happened and whether policy, the global policy, UK policy, US policy was influenced by Epstein's crimes and by his actions. And certainly we'd want to know if that happened in the US as well. But we'd have a lot of questions about that, certainly.
Okay. Now, the Deputy Attorney General of the United States, Todd Blanche, has said, as far as the Justice Department is concerned, the case is closed. The Epstein case is closed. But I see it suggested that there may be a vast cache of files which has not been released. Do you share that suspicion, that belief?
Yeah, by their own admission, they had 6 million files, yet we received 3.5 million, and a lot of things were missing in those 3.5 million. And then, they said that the reason they didn't release all of the files was because the files had identifying information about the victims. Well, the victims sent a letter first saying that they demanded the release of all the files. And second, they sent another letter asking to take them down because there was way too much identifying information in the 3.5 million they released. And so their story isn't adding up. And so they've withheld specific files that I've been looking for, like the draft indictment against Epstein before he was given a sweetheart deal, a lot of witness and victim interviews where they name names and talk about all of the crimes Epstein committed and how and who was involved, for instance. And so all that information is being hidden and not being released. And so to those who want this investigation to be over, who are hoping it's over, like the president and his administration, I would tell them that this is just getting started.
All right, Congressman, thank you so much. That's Suhas Subramanyam, who's a member of the Oversight Committee of the House of Representatives in the Capitol in D.C.